Hey guys, I want to show you what I think is the most insane build that I've seen for Flak so far. There's been a new ability or trick that's been discovered with him, and I believe this makes him the strongest character in Borderlands 3 now. No other character can do this, and this is not something that was intended, and it's not necessarily a glitch. It's just something that's happening because of the way that the gear is set up. And a massive shout out to It's Dark Wolf 6 on Instagram. He emailed me to let me know about this ability that Flak has, and this makes Flak so powerful that he can demolish Mayhem 10 bosses in under a second. So I'll show you guys some examples here and show you how much damage Flak is dealing out. In the beginning of the video, I showed you guys these Nova Blasts that are coming off of Flak. Well, you can trigger those over and over again as fast as you can pull the trigger, and every time you pull the trigger, you're dealing millions of damage. It just absolutely melts all the bosses. Grave Ward, the Ruiner, Katagawa Ball, all of them. Captain and General Trant don't have a chance, and the Wendigo here on DLC 2, this boss is really tough, but with this method he's gone in under 2 seconds. Again, you're doing millions and millions of damage, and the faster you pull the trigger, the more damage you do. On the Wendigo, I was doing 38 million, and right here on Agonizer 9000, I'm doing 40 million damage every time I pull the trigger. And there is no delay. You don't have to wait between each trigger pull and the damage that you're doing. The game will let you go as fast as you possibly can. And a big shout out to Honda Riders. Him and I have been working together the last 3 days trying to put together the best build, like testing everything, and I think we both threw out our shoulders trying to hit the triggers so fast on the controller. So the button that I'm spamming in the footage is the action skill for the Gamma Burst for Flak. When targeted on an enemy or in an area where Gamma Burst can actually be deployed, it will deploy. But if you're looking in an area where it can't be deployed, then it's just going to keep resetting over and over again. And that's what you want. You want to be able to go into these boss fights and look in an area where Gamma Burst won't deploy, and then you're just triggering that action skill over and over again, and that creates Novas non-stop that deal millions of damage. No other character can do this, where they can spam an action skill over and over again and it immediately resets. And this Nova has a really good reach. I'll show you right here on Grave Ward. So Honda is at the end of the platform and he's as close as he can get, and yeah, that blast will reach Grave Ward and wreck him. I'll show you guys all the gear that you need, and I'll also have a save file for this build for PC, and I'll have that linked on my Twitter, and I also have my Twitter linked down in the description. I'll also show you guys how this build works with other bosses like Kilovolt, Troy, and Tyrene, and then I'll show you some of the bosses that you can look directly at and it won't deploy the Gamma Burst. So the first thing you're going to need, and some of you might have guessed it, is the legendary Stinger Shield. And you specifically want the anointment that says on action skill start, activate any effects that trigger on shield break or fill. So with that, we are triggering that action skill over and over again, and every time that action skill is triggered, it breaks the shield, and that creates a Nova Blast. So this is what creates and then allows you to spam those Novas non-stop. Those Novas translate into melee damage, so we're going to put the rest of the equipment focused on helping that melee damage. The shield does come with all the elements, so Cryo Fire, Corrosive Shock, and Radiation. We did test all the bosses with the different elements, and it does make a big difference. Like for Grave Ward, yeah, you want to use Fire, and for Agonizer 9000, you want to use Corrosive because he has armor. And then some bosses you just want to pay attention to the mechanics, like the Wendigo on DLC 2. He has a red health bar and no shield, so you think you would want to walk in there with a fire shield, but that actually doesn't work. But when you put on the cryo shield, it absolutely destroys him. So he's kind of a unique boss, and most of the other bosses follow along with those rules of knowing what to expect and what kind of elements work with them. The save file I have for this build will have all 5 of these elemental shields, so you'll be able to pick and choose whenever you go into a boss fight. If you need to farm this, you can get it from Anathema boss in the Guardian takedown. It's the very first main boss that you reach, and it's halfway through the takedown. The next item in the build is the Psychostabber from Vermivorous, and I do want to give a big shout out to Z.Karma. He put together an Amara build that I did make a video about showing a lot of these items, and we're just taking some of them and putting them onto the Flak build and optimizing them. For example, the Amara build did have the Psychostabber, but with a different anointment. That one was whenever the enemy's health is above 90%, you're doing 300% extra damage. That anointment isn't as effective for this Flak build, and instead you want this one here. On action skill in, splash damage is increased by 200% for a short time. With this method, that anointment is getting triggered non-stop because you are spamming that action skill over and over again. We did test out several anointments and they just didn't do as well as this one. But the reason why you want the Psychostabber is because it's giving you plus 120% melee damage, and you're not using the weapon, you're just holding it out, and it gives you that bonus. Again, we're trying to help support the melee damage because the shield's Nova is translated into melee damage. The next item is a a bounty hunter class mod, and down at the bottom it's giving you plus 33% splash damage. That helps a lot. And then there's more help with the melee damage of 59%, and then it gives you some extra health of plus 3521. Again, I'll have this specific class mod in the save file. The last item is a legendary artifact called Unleash the Dragon. This is helping again to support melee damage, and it has a 100% melee ignite chance, and then a plus 34% melee damage. I'll also have this artifact in the save file, and then I'll have where you can farm all these items down in the description. For the skill tree, I'll show you guys everything that I have in the skill tree, and I've got circled what it wouldn't allow me to select, but that obviously is going to be Gamma Burst that you need to have on, and then some of the other augmentations do help a little bit. Flak doesn't really have anything that specifically says that it's focused on melee, so we just tried to help his damage and help his health. I'll have a link to the website that will show all of these selections in the skill tree, so you can just easily access it and you won't have to come back through the video. Another thing that is important, if you're on Mayhem 10 and you are trying to affect a lot of damage, you want to make sure that the very hard selection is not on Holy Crit. This is going to take half of your damage away. You're still going to be extremely powerful, but yeah, just avoid this one. Any of the other ones are perfectly fine. So I want to show you guys some details about using this method with some of the bosses. Like for Grave Ward, what you want to do is get to the front of the platform as fast as possible. The platform is going to tilt, and you need to wait for it to tilt and then wait for the green orbs to pass, and then just look right at him and start spamming the button that would trigger this Gamma Burst. He's one of the bosses you can look directly at and it won't deploy the Gamma Burst, but you do have to wait for those green orbs to pass so that his body is close enough so that you do affect him with the Novas. And with us spamming as fast as humanly possible, we were able to kill him on Mayhem 10 right under 2 seconds. So for an enemy like KlLLS, he has a shield that you have to wait until it goes down, and then you can just spam. And this one you can't look at him. You need to look kind of up and away to not be targeting any enemies. It seems like enemies that are outside the playable area like Grave Ward or Agonizer, those are the ones you can actually look at because you're aiming in an area that you actually can't walk onto. For enemies that have immunity stages, yeah, you just gotta wait through those stages. And with Troy, he likes to fly off, but you can actually kill him and get through all of his health bar without him flying off. All you have to do is get within 10 feet of him and look directly up and start spamming the Gamma Burst button. What happens is you are doing so much damage to him that when he comes out of his immunity stage, instead of flying off, you have already damaged him so much that he's going into the next immunity stage. This makes this fight about 22 seconds long, and this is on Mayhem 10. With the Tyrene boss fight, it's what you would expect. You would come in here, look directly up, and start spamming Gamma Burst until she goes into her first immunity stage. With her mechanics, you do have to shoot the top of her head to get her to become unimmune, but once that happens, then you can start spamming Gamma Burst again, and then just rinse and repeat. In addition to having all this gear in a save file for PC, this weekend I might be in a PS4 lobby inviting people in and dropping all of this gear for you guys. I'll make an announcement on my Twitter letting you guys know that I'm online. I'll need to friend request you to add you to my list so that I can actually invite you into the lobby and drop the items for you. I'll be making that announcement on my Twitter later on in the week to let you guys know when I'm online and if I'm going to actually be doing it. Most likely I will, and I'll have my Twitter linked down in the description. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you have a lot of fun with it. I certainly did, and we'll see you guys next video.